All right. Welcome to another Trauma Talk Radio live broadcast with myself, your freedom coach, Nataushia Miller. Okay. I believe our sound is good. All right. So, welcome to Trauma Talk Radio, our online podcast. Well, actually, podcast, Trauma Talk Radio show. A little bit of both. A little bit of both. But for here for the live broadcast, it's the live show, where viewers can call in for a candid conversation about overcoming life traumas. And then we also have the other component where I facilitate 2 to 5 minute short interviews with everyday people while I'm out and about living life. And we post those clips daily on all of our social media platforms. And then on Mondays, we have the live broadcast here on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Yes, and we have some changes coming up for next month, July, on the times, because instead of doing YouTube and Facebook simultaneously through StreamYard, we're actually going to start doing them separately. YouTube and Facebook will be done separately, and those changes will begin in January. So, those are some brief updates, announcements, and an overview of what Trauma Talk Radio is all about. And typically, we always open up with a brief chat where I just share some content about trauma before we open up the lines for people to call in. Also, because Trauma Talk Radio is interactive, it's about conversation, it's about dialogue. If no one chimes in for the live broadcast within the first 5 to 7 minutes of being here on live, I shut it down because it's not just supposed to be a place where I'm just doing the talking. We're supposed to have a conversation. And Trauma Talk Radio is fairly new, so we're still building the momentum for our live broadcast on Mondays. So it's all good that we are still working on getting people here for the live broadcast, but we've been having a lot of interaction over on Instagram. So that seems to be where the hot spot is for our live broadcast for the time being. So that is a quick rundown on that. I want to try to make sure I covered all of announcements and description of Trauma Talk Radio real quickly. And I believe I covered everything so far. So yes. All right. So we are 4 minutes in, and I'm going to stay on for another 90 seconds or so to see if anyone chimes in for the live broadcast. But our content this evening was going to be about grief and how grief is a natural human response to trauma, because trauma includes both loss and pain. And it's the loss and the pain of a traumatic experience that triggers our natural human response of grief. And I call it the trauma tragedy. It is when we cannot go back to who we were or how life was before the traumatic experience. And that's what causes grief. So there's a grieving component to that, as well as a great opportunity to rediscover recalibrate, reconstruct, recreate our lives because we cannot go back to who we were or how life was before the traumatic experience. And typically, grief is a major response to the loss of a loved one. So I hope that you have been following along on my social media platforms to see the clip that was released today, the interview that was released today, because it was about grief. And what I really enjoyed from this particular interview is that the woman described the sound of trauma as a loud silence. Loud silence, which is really oxymoron, because how can something be loud and silent simultaneously? But I believe those of us who have experienced grief, especially the grief that comes from the loss of a loved one, can identify with that description of how trauma sounds. The trauma being specifically the loss of a loved one. So that was the opening remarks for the dialogue, the conversation for this evening. Just to open it up, of course, when people call in, viewers call in, the conversation can go to the left, to the right, because it's candid, it's unscripted, and it's all about the matters of the heart. What's on the person's mind, what's on their heart right now in real time. And that's that with that. So we are 6 minutes, 52 seconds in and counting. And so I am about to wrap this up for tonight over here on Facebook and YouTube. And I hope that you can catch me in a little bit over on Instagram. So every Monday on Instagram at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we're going to start having some pop-ups too. So be on the lookout for that. And I believe we're going to start the pop-ups in July with our new time for the live broadcast of Trauma Talk Radio. Alrighty, so this is your Freedom Coach, Nataushia Miller, signing off until next time. Peace and freedom to you all. Bye-bye.